Yeah, thank you for the introduction. My name is Francis McGregor-McDonald. Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm an analytics solutions architect manager. My team and I, we do all those great things with data that we like to do. Value from data, insights from analytics, and most recently, really cool innovation with Gen AI. And the particular passion of mine is data governance. It's something that I've been looking at for a while, and we see organizations struggling in this space. And so today I'm going to dive into a pragmatic approach to data governance. It's going to be a whiteboarding session for those of you that didn't notice that, so I'm going to do a lot of scribbling. Hopefully my writing is nice and tidy and you can all make it out. And we're going to work through a few things. We're going to start out by talking about the North Star for data governance. And that North Star really is becoming a data-driven organization and building trust. Secondly, then, we're going to look at how we generate value with data governance and taking a value-driven model, and that's the model that we really recommend at AWS. Third, we're going to talk through a specific example. So I'm going to walk through a Gen AI example. It may look very similar if you were in the previous session to the use case that Mary Law described. It's a retrieval augmented generated AI assistant. And then after that, we're going to wrap up by saying what can you do when you get back to your office on Monday, and where can you go from here to generate value in your organization. So with that, we'll dive in. I think first I'll just start with, what is data governance? And I know this question may seem a little self-evident, and if you're here, I'm sure you already have a view. Some sessions we'll see where people jump straight into technology. At AWS, we see data governance as the people, the process, and the technology that work together to create trust in our organization. Trust between the producers and the consumers of data. And when I say producers and consumers, the reason for that is that the North Star that we're building towards with data governance is a data-driven organization. And so we're starting out by trying to build trust. And trust sits at the center of our organization with successful data governance. But often, when we start out, we produce data moves into our organization, and we're missing that trust, and so very little consumption happens on the other side. So today I'm going to talk through how to build that trust in your organization, and specifically, how to inject trust into the data marketplace that you're looking to build in your organization to be successful. So let's jump into it. When we start with data governance, the first thing that we think about is understanding the value. And we start by thinking about the business case. The business case, of course, describes to our organization what they're going to get from their data governance, what the value of the capabilities that we're going to inject into the organization are, and how they can drive value. And in that business case, we have of course, the current and the future state. In the current and the future state, you'll be thinking about the current and the future state that you have in your own organization at the moment. And again, that will be a combination of changes in the technology and the capabilities and the way that people are working to move from the current and the future state. And here, for example, you may be thinking, at the moment you don't have a business data catalog, or you don't have row-level security, or you don't have these other capabilities that you would need to move forward with value. So, from our current and our future state, we think about implementing capabilities. And implementing capabilities is the foundation of moving forward. So for example, typically organizations will start out with implementing data security. Security, as we often think, is job zero. After implementing capabilities, we start thinking about sharing the data across our organization. And here we're thinking about a catalog. And we can think about the progression as we build out our data environment. Access and security typically comes first, followed by a catalog. And once we have the catalog, have we built out the trust though? And remember, we're looking to build trust in our organization. So if we have access and security and we have a catalog, do we have trust in our organization? Are we at the successful point in terms of our future state? Not yet. So typically now we might start thinking about another capability. And an example of that would be data quality. And after we have quality in our data, do we have trust? Maybe we don't, depending on the use case. In fact, here we might start to think about something like compliance. This, for example, is if we're thinking about PII data, and do we have the appropriate compliance in our data? But once we have the compliance, do we have trust yet? Actually, maybe not. In fact, often, an example of the type of data we're looking for, we need a single view of customer. And so here we might start thinking about something like entity resolution. And after entity resolution, we might think about data lifecycle and other capabilities, and data lineage, for example. After all of these capabilities are built out in our platform, we have trust. Of course, once we have trust, we have value, and we can look to repeat. And we see about 90% of organizations starting out their data governance journey this way. You know, we look for technologies, for example, to create a data catalog, and we've got Amazon Data Zone, for example, or partner solutions. But the challenge, and as I said, 90% of organizations start this way, is that the gap here between the business case and the instantiation and the value is very long. In fact, we see organizations taking up to 2 years on this journey. So although I've gone down this path with you for a couple of minutes, actually this is not what we recommend at AWS. What we're looking to do is help you find the fastest way to business value. And the shortest path to business value through data governance is the path that we recommend. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So when we say business value, we're thinking about a key business use case. And in fact, my colleague Mary Law in the last session was talking about key business use cases, and she gave an example, a RAG example, which in fact I'll reuse in this session with a conversational assistant. A common use case that we're seeing with generative AI, which is generating tremendous value for organizations as they scan through their internal systems and answer questions faster for their own customers. So we'll use that as a really good example of a current key use case. And what we're going to look to do with our data governance and how we see organizations being successful is focusing on these use cases, your key use cases, and using those to implement data governance. And the way we do that is we take the key use case and we step back from the governance itself and we say, what is the key use case? What value is it going to bring? And then of course the next step is, what is the required data? And the required data here dramatically cuts the scope. So before we were thinking about capabilities across our entire platform, we started with security, then we went to catalog, then we went to quality across our entire platform. But here, we've moved from a platform view or a capability view to a specific use case view. And from the required data, we're now going to move to a data product view. So we're cutting our scope from the platform to the data product, and we're changing our mindset from the technology and the capabilities that we're implementing to focusing on the data we're implementing in our organization. And the mindset shift that we see enabling our customers to be most successful is where we switch from this capability and technology view to this data product view, and then iteratively build out the data products across their organization. And as each data product moves into the organization, the innovation in the organization increases and the utility of the data increases. And we typically see the 80% of time that people see preparing their data for analytics moving from in front of the data products or from the users and the consumers of the data to the producer side. So from the data, when the data products are implemented, we of course we assess the value and repeat. But the key here, of course, is this data product contains trust. And trust is the key ingredient that we're looking to build out with our data environment. So moving from a platform view where we have trust at the end of all the capabilities being implemented, to a data and product view, where when the product is implemented, we have trust for this specific product and for the use cases it supports. And let's dive into an example of the use case then. So we set a conversational assistant. So our key use case here that we're going to walk through is a conversational assistant. And for our conversational assistant, let us assume, and obviously I'm simplifying here, that we want the conversational assistant and the person that's interrogating to be able to consider data that covers customer, product, transactions, and interactions. So 4 different types of products, 4 different types of data sources that we're going to be ingesting. And I've intentionally chosen here 3 that most likely are structured data: customer, product, and transactions, and then 1 that is potentially unstructured, and for example, could be transcripts between previous agents, could pertain customer sentiment, these types of things. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of data, 3 structured, unstructured. And then our next step, let's just think about the data product that we need to build and the specific capabilities that we need for this data product. So remember, we're looking for the fastest path to journey here, fastest path to value. So for every data product, of course, access and security is key. And of course, for every data product, we want to ensure that it's catalogued. So we want to ensure that data is shareable. We want to make sure that it's shareable across the organization once the security is in place. And then when we think about a conversational assistant, what other capabilities we require for the specific use case? So remember, we're no longer going across the entire platform. We're thinking, what do we need to deliver value here? And in this example, quality. We need to ensure that the agent is interrogating quality data. Compliance certainly would be key, as we're treating customer data here. So we've got PII potentially. And then the third example that's going to be key here, because we're combining 4 different types of data, is going to be entity resolution. So immediately, as we cut scope and we start to think small before we scale out to build out our data platform, we now have got 5 data governance capabilities across 1 data product with 4 sources. We've got a dramatically faster time to value as we build out. Okay? So, I said before, this is our process, this is our mental model for building data products, and each data product will iteratively drop into our data environment to help scale innovation. So before we go into the specifics of building out the data product, let's just take a quick step back and understand the use case to see how the data product fits. And again, this may look familiar if you're in the previous session. My hand-drawn diagrams won't be as tidy as the slide. So we start out with our agent, and our agent, of course, and I'm using simplified language here, but if you've been in the AI session, you'll recognize retrieval, augmented generation, and tokenization and other factors here. Our agent is going to ask a question. We're going to ask a question of our agent, and our process here is going to extract keywords. And with those keywords, we're going to do 2 things. First off, we're going to get, I'm going to call them insights. So we're going to look for insights from our enterprise data stores. Let me do this in red. So insights from our enterprise data stores. And equally, we're going to search our knowledge base. Okay, so again, this diagram is a little familiar. Our conversational agent, we extract the keywords, we look for insights from our enterprise data stores, we search our knowledge base, and then of course, as this is a generative AI process, we're going to return the results of the search. We're going to combine those with the question. I'm going to call that an augmented question or an augmented prompt in AI terms here. Of course, we're going to pass that to our model. Model is going to pass an answer back to our agent. That's going to create the delightful experience that we're looking for. So we're really focusing here on what is the process that we're going to support, and how does our data product, and our data product is up here in the top right, fit with that? Okay, so we're really understanding it. And of course we can also understand here, what are the data governance requirements of the application itself, or the process itself. And we're thinking here specifically about when the question is asked, do we have compliance, for example? So does the question, for example, contain bias? As we query the insights and the knowledge base, do we have the appropriate levels of security in place? And our data product, of course, needs to support those. And then, of course, we have the unique situation, or the new situation, I should say, with Gen AI, where previously our single source of truth in the top right was a single source of truth. Now we have what we could, let's just call them new sources of truth generated out of our model with a conversational agent. And so we've got another type of data governance that we need to apply. We need to apply compliance to the answer, which is something we typically never had to do before. So when our model returns an answer, we have to ensure that, for example, PII is appropriate, it's been redacted, and those types of things. Okay, so we've got the model in mind, we've understood that we're going to build out the data product, we can see our use case here, we can see where the security needs to fit, the access and security particularly, and we can also understand that we've got a couple of additional steps in terms of compliance. So let's dive then into building out the data governance itself and the data product. And I've just got a skeleton here of a data environment that I'm going to lay the process on top of so that you can see how that fits. So I mentioned before, we have two types of data. We've got structured and unstructured data. Specifically, we've got interactions. And we've got customer, product, and transactions. So as we ingest the data into our raw zone, of course, the first thing we need to do is we need to apply security. And I'm using here, and you'll recognize, I'm sure, Amazon S3 for our data storage. So in our raw zone, we need to apply security. I said we were going to be pragmatic, and we're going to think about using capabilities that are built into the AWS environment here. So here, we have a capability already to add security. So AWS Lake Formation is an Amazon service that allows you to do fine-grained access control across your data stores. And here, as soon as the data's landed in our raw zone, we're going to use Amazon Lake Formation, sorry, I said data zone, didn't I? Lake Formation, to apply the security across your environment. So this is our number one. This is our This is the first capability we just spoke about. We're going to apply the access and security. Now, as the data moves from our raw to our curated zone, we're going to start thinking about the further capabilities. So PII and quality. As we start to build out our standardized data sets, we're not combining them yet. That'll be our production zone, and that'll be our data product. In fact, our PII and quality at AWS, we have built in to our data integration service, AWS Glue. So AWS Glue is a serverless data integration service, and with AWS Glue, we can apply PII treatment and quality. So as it moves through our pipeline and we potentially transform it from unstructured logs into Parquet files, for example, we can use AWS Glue to do that. So this is 2 and 3. And as the data is curated, we're going to start thinking about cataloging that data. And to catalog that data, we have Amazon Data Zone. Amazon Data Zone is Amazon's data management service, which allows producers and consumers to share data across their organization in a secure fashion. And it works seamlessly with AWS Lake Formation. So here we've got 4 of our capabilities built out as the data moves through its data pipeline. And as we think about the individual users, we've got our engineers, for example, and our data scientists working through Amazon Glue. We've got our users interacting through Data Zone. So we've got entry points for the different types of users. And then the last capability that I mentioned is entity resolution. And for entity resolution, in fact, here again, we have a capability to do that. So AWS entity resolution, let me just scale that slightly. So AWS entity resolution allows us to align and integrate multiple types of data to create a single view, for example, of customers. So here we have transaction records, customer records, product records, and we use AWS Entity Resolution as a service to integrate those. So you can see here we're still thinking specifically though about this specific data product and this specific use case. And here I'm showing us delivering that through Amazon Redshift. Amazon Redshift. But there's two final steps here that we need to do to build out the data side of our use case and supply the data side. So the last step there is we can use Amazon OpenSearch, which is Amazon's, which has a vector database capabilities, allowing us to store the embeddings from our data product and from our enterprise data stores in such a way that we can run semantic searches across those for our knowledge base and provide those contextual insights back to our agent. We'll generate the embeddings from our data product. Using Amazon Bedrock. And Amazon Bedrock, again, I know was featured in Mary's session, Amazon Bedrock. Super exciting to see Amazon Bedrock released today in Sydney, which is awesome. And Amazon Bedrock is our capability to provide foundation models through a single UI, through a single API. So super exciting to see that released in Sydney. All of these capabilities work together to build the data product on the top right. This is the model that we use at AWS to build out data products, to scale data governance across organizations. And when we've run here, we have trust. We have our 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have our 5 key data governance capabilities enabled in this data product. So this data product can be trusted. It can be consumed across our organization without, additional complexity and with understanding. And that's the foundation that we're looking to build with data governance, and we've done that for this specific use case. And as we look to innovate in our organization and scale, and we look back to our model, we start to look for commonalities between our required data and our next data product. So what data have we already ingested into that curated zone? What data can we next bring it into our production zone as the next data product to create more trust and scale more innovation? But every time we deliver the data product, we're delivering a use case. So this conversational agent delivers this magical experience and shows value, demonstrates value of the data and demonstrates value of the data product. And with this model, we're no longer talking about the value of the data governance detached from the data product or detached from the business case. They're tied together. So no longer potentially are we looking for a business case for data governance. We're looking for a business case for innovation. We're looking for a business case for this specific use case and the value this use case is going to bring to our organization. And then the data governance comes along and supports that and allows that to drive forward. And this is the model that we see organizations being successful with, because governance is no longer a cost. Governance now is a driver of that innovation, and it creates the capabilities in the organization to scale and become more data-driven. Okay, so we can see here the final pattern. We can see here the capabilities as each additional data product is added into our organization. Then we create more and more data products, more consumers, and more innovation in our organization. Now, we have a really cool example of an organization that's been successful with this. Deputy works with 350,000 workplaces across 100 countries, innovating in the hourly workspace. And they've done exactly this on AWS. They use Amazon Redshift to expose their data products. They use data governance and data products as the foundation of their innovation. And it allows them to scale their platform with trust and deliver Gen AI use cases like Gen AI user interactions and Gen AI UXs. So we have customers doing this now. It's an exciting way to work, and it delivers innovation at scale. So, I come full circle here. Where do we go from here? We start, rather than with the capabilities, by identifying important business initiatives and use cases. You'll have a business use case. You'll know which one it is. It'll be a burning platform. It'll be something that you're being asked for by one of your business departments. We start with that. We determine the data that we need to deliver that use case. Just that use case, we're staying focused. Then we build out the data product. We ensure that the data is ready to support the business use case. And we've got our wheel here on this diagram just to show us the capabilities that we need. We think about the specific capabilities, like we did today with the conversational AI assistant. When we've delivered the data product, and the use cases delivered and the applications delivered, we assess the value, we understand the value of the governance, we understand the value of the data product, we make sure the data product's safely in our environment so it can be innovated on and used by other parts of our organization. It's catalogued and it's scaled. Then we assess their contribution to value and we repeat. That's the model we have at AWS. We start small with data products, but we're thinking big about creating innovation in our organization by thinking about trusted data between producers and consumers. We see organizations being successful. We see customers going the other way, taking 2 years, potentially, before they realize that this shorter path is a great way to go. It's exciting. I hope to hear your stories about it. Thank you for listening today. It's been fantastic sharing this with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francis. That was really, really insightful. And I particularly enjoyed the pragmatic approach that you took throughout the whole life cycle. So thanks for that again. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, but before that, could I ask everybody just to give us some feedback on this session via the app? It's a really quick 3 questions form to do, so it's really quick. And then after the break at 20 to 3, 2. So basically in half an hour, we're back here with a session from our partner MongoDB. All right, thanks, see you then.